Good morning, everyone. It is the 3rd of September in New Zealand, and we are broadcasting from the lockdown of my home. I think we'll just give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes for people to come in. And just a reminder, we're doing this today for a good cause. If you haven't already, it's a $5 donation to the Mental Health Foundation. So welcome. Rohit's joined us. Welcome, Rohit. Welcome, Vijay. Just going to give it a couple of minutes before people turn up. How's everyone today? Where are we calling from?
Hi, Zhi. I'm from Auckland as well. Keen to learn about visual thinking. Thanks for putting this together.
Morning, Rohit. Where are you calling us from? Well, it is 2 past the hour, so we'll kick off and hopefully more people join us as we progress through the course. So welcome. Just a little bit of an introduction about Teamworx. We are a small boutique agile consultancy, and our mission is to help Kiwi companies and companies around the world, for that matter, to thrive in the ever-changing world. These are some of the clients that we've worked with. We do a lot of work in the FMCG space with healthcare, and we work with different companies doing different things in different industries. So these are some of the services that we offer. Basically, our mission is to help companies work in better ways, and we can do things ranging from strategic reviews to facilitating a workshop, Lego serious play. We do a lot of Lego. We do team building, and we do agile training as well. So if you're interested in what we do, what we offer, I'd invite you to jump onto our website, which is www.teamworx.co.nz. Over here, and we also have a bunch of resources related to graphic facilitation and graphic recording. If you just click on the top link that says visual facilitation, we've got a bunch of videos and podcasts as well. So I invite you to head along to our website and like us on LinkedIn. We have a button on top. We will be posting this recording on the LinkedIn page. So if you give us a like, you'll get a notification. So without much ado, I'm going to roll into the course, and I hope everyone can see my screen okay. I'm just going to full screen this. So a bit about me. My name is Zhi. I'm an agile coach, and my mission in life really is to give people energy and help them work in better ways. One of those ways in which I do a lot of work is to use a visual toolkit. So I'm hoping to be able to share some of that toolkit today to help you guys become a better facilitator and a better communicator. I use visual tools in all the different parts of my work, ranging from running workshops to helping myself take better notes to presenting better in front of a whiteboard. So I'm hoping to be able to share some of those skills today. So welcome to everyone on the call. And we have quite a few people streaming in. It's going to be quite a practical session, so I hope you have some pen and paper. And today I'm going to be using a Wacom to do some sketching, but you can choose whatever you like to use, whether it's an iPad or pen and paper is all good as well. So with that, we're going to kick into the course. The philosophy behind my courses are that it's very accessible and you're able to pick up materials that are readily available and affordable. In fact, paper and pen, pencils, they work really well. We are purposely presenting the visuals in a very raw format, and I practice what I preach. So the slides are very simple. They're not designed to be artistic. As you will learn during the course, visual facilitation and expressing yourselves using visual thinking is about being able to communicate effectively rather than artistically. So I have a couple of exercises, and I wasn't sure how keen people were to do breakouts or if they just wanted to just do it on their own. So I've got two options, an individual option versus a breakout option. Is anyone keen for a breakout? You can raise your hand. I suppose we'll go with the individual option then. So the exercise here is to use your non-dominant hand to sketch a picture of yourself on a piece of paper. And then when you're done with that, you're going to use your dominant hand then to write down your name, your role, and what organization you come from. And when you're done, I'm going to invite you to hold the picture up to the webcam, and we can just have a look at each other's drawings. So I'll just give us a couple of minutes. This is really quick warm-up exercise just to get the blood flowing into those fingers. Use your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, you're going to be using your left hand to draw a sketch of yourself. And when you're done, you're going to label your sketch with your name and your role and your organization. And then we're just going to show the pictures to the web camera if you're comfortable. So when you're done, just put your pictures on the webcam and we'll give it a couple of minutes. If you're not comfortable using the camera, that's okay. Feel free to post that sketch on LinkedIn and feel free to tag me and tag Teamworx after the event. All right, I can see Manu's sketch over there. I can see Vanessa sketching away, and Anita's got a sketch as well. And Anita's a design lead. Thanks, Anita. And we've got VJ. Yeah, VJ. Welcome, VJ. I can see Vanessa sketching away as well. All right, looks like we're done there. Has anyone else got a sketch to show? That's all good. So the alternative exercise that I would have done if we were in person would have been to grab a partner and then sketch them instead of just sketching yourself. And what I find is that when we do that, because we've got something tangible in our hands, it's a piece of paper, you're able to actually enhance the interaction with your partner. I've run this exercise with many, many teams and many people, and it always results in a better conversation than just going up to someone and say, hey, my name is so-and-so. Now, the other reason I've asked us to use our non-dominant hand to draw the sketch is because that's about all the artistic skills you need. If you can draw something with your non-dominant hand, that's all the artistic ability you need. So this course is not about being artistic. It's about being able to use visuals to communicate effectively. So just an introduction around what visual thinking is. So on the screen there, I've got two scenarios of what we're used to when we enter a car park. There is your traditional car park that doesn't have any of these visual indicators. If you're familiar with the ones in Sylvia Park in Auckland, for example, or any of the malls in Sydney, they will have visual indicators indicating whether a parking spot is available or not. Now, those indicators allow us to receive the information a lot easier, as opposed to a writing that just says car park number 54 is occupied. That's what we call perceived information. So using visuals allows us to convert perceived information into received information. Basically, it's making things a lot easier for your brain. Now, my wife is from Taiwan and we go back to Taiwan once a year. However, it's not possible during COVID now, but during my travels, I have encountered these signs outside the toilet, which is actually a really good example of visual thinking. It's a toilet status indicator. Now, there is a very peculiar status there called investigation alert, and I'm not sure what that means, but we'll leave that up to our imagination. I like to talk about the power of visuals. So I'm an agile coach, which means that I work with a lot of teams to help them get closer to their customers and produce value incrementally. And I find that talking about the risks at the start of a project is quite a good way to actually help people refer to those risks along the way. And so visual thinking doesn't have to be drawing something. It can be just the act of putting something up on a post-it or putting something up on the board. And doing that actually enhances the communication because you can see something in front of you. So this is a project that I run at a utilities company. And we got the project team to think about all the risks or all the things that could go bad during the project, what's going to keep you up at night. We got everyone to put up the ideas on post-its and we categorized those risks and we called out the top 5 risks. And what we did there was actually, we left these risks in the project area. And I can remember quite fondly, risk number 3 was the security folks changing their mind about the security constraints on the project. So this team actually made sure that they took the security folk out to lunch. That was one of their mitigating measures. So visualizing risks on a post-it is one example of visual thinking. I'm going to be talking through a few more different examples here. Now, visual thinking can also come in the form of using Lego or plasticine or Play-Doh. It's the fact that you're using something visual to encapsulate some meaning. Now, this Lego model here actually represents the vision of a project. And I can quite fondly remember this because the project sponsor said that there is flex to scope, there's flexibility to change the scope in the project. And that's what that little bendy bit on the top of that model means. Yeah, so the project sponsor said that as long as we're delivering to our customers and delivering the right outcome, so that's the figurine in the middle there, as long as we are keeping the customer in mind, it's okay for us to flex the scope of the project. Now, that is a very powerful statement to be able to capture from a sponsor. And we've done that very elegantly by capturing that in a Lego model. And the team have actually left this Lego model in the project area. And it's a reminder that it's okay for the scope to flex. Okay, so that's another example of visual thinking. Now, has anyone been to the Wellington airport or any airport where they've used some clever ways to represent where you parked? Yeah, Anita's thumbs up. Mana's giving me a thumbs up there. So this is the Wellington airport, and they actually use symbols of animals to denote the letters A to Z. And it's easier to remember that you parked at the deer rather than I parked at the D. So this is an effective way in which you can use visuals to help people remember messages better. Now, this is an example of a boarding pass, a lean boarding pass that's been floating around LinkedIn. Now, I actually wish that the airline industry would do this, because if you've traveled, traveling might be a distant memory, but if you have ever traveled, I am just gobsmacked at how complex airlines make things, right? It's very, very complicated. So this is an example here of a lean boarding pass where we are using visuals to lift the information to make it easier to receive. So converting what we call perceived information, the one on top, into what we call received information. Now, notice that we are not changing the way you're boarding the plane. We are not changing the destination. We're not changing the boarding time. We're not changing any of that information. But what we're doing is we're making it easier for the brain to receive that information. let's see more examples of visuals in action before we get into some of the practical stuff. So this is an example of a process diagram. And I remember quite fondly that I actually visualized a process of a service ticket. So if someone's got an error, encountering an error on the website, they log a ticket, and this is what happens. Now, it doesn't matter what the content of that visual is, but what I was really impressed and what I observed was that after I put the visual on the wall, someone actually came along and actually made a change to the diagram and did something about that process, that inefficiency in that process. So having that tangibility or having something tangible that people can actually physically touch or see invites collaboration. Yeah, so it's a really good tool for process mapping. And by virtue of just leaving something on the wall, these days it might be on a Word document or a Miro board or some alternate digital form, it invites someone to interact with the content. This is an example of me taking notes at a seminar, and it's a one-pager that I can just relive really easily. Now, this was probably quite a few years ago when I took the sketch, and my sketchnoting skills, my visual thinking and visualization skills has improved over the years. And it does take practice, but the important thing is you start and you have a crack at it. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't look pretty. The ultimate goal is to be able to just capture the information to relive it. Now, I've introduced a new term here, the term called sketchnoting. Sketchnoting is a very personal form of note-taking where you combine text and icons, very simple icons, in order to help express something that you're experiencing at the moment. It could be, a holiday, it could be a seminar, you might be taking some notes at a lecture, and that's what we call sketchnoting. This is someone sketchnoting the Korea versus Germany match. Now, even though it is in a foreign language, so I think this is German, even though it is in a different language, you're able to actually get a sense of what the match was like because of the visuals. So you're able to break some of those language boundaries. We might not be a native speaker of a language, but being able to see some visuals actually facilitates that understanding process. So I just want to formally define what sketch notes are. So basically, they are rich visual notes created from a mix of handwritten drawings, typography, so using different types of fonts, shapes, visual elements, even colors to create different levels of separation in your notes. Now, I don't know about how you guys take notes, but I find that when I take notes myself, whether it's through a picture or just writing a list, it helps me to actually distill the information in my brain. And it helps me form a connection with the content, and it helps me to remember stuff a lot better. And lastly, it's really fun. And I find that when I do a sketch note of a talk and I post it on LinkedIn, I get a lot of interaction and the way to actually connect with speakers. So there are different progressions of visual thinking. I've introduced the idea of sketchnoting, which is about the eye. It's a very personal form of note-taking. And then we have middle of the road, what we call graphic recording, which is a group form of visual thinking where typically you have an artist or a graphic recorder standing in the front of a room using big paper and sketching out the conversation as it unfolds, okay? And the most interactive form of visual thinking is what we call visual facilitation. And this is something that I do a lot. It involves standing up in front of a room and actually facilitating a topic or facilitating a workshop to a certain subject. It might be what can we do to improve the next project or reflections or team building session. but using visuals to express what you're trying to convey as a facilitator, and then doing some graphic recording, so recording the conversation and the discussions that are being had in the room. Now, because we're able to represent something on a piece of paper, everyone gets to see and everyone gets to probe and challenge what's getting written on the board. So at the end of the session, you have almost a version of the truth that people can take away. So this is the progression of the different types of visual thinking. It manifests in the I, which is a personal form of note-taking. And then it progresses into graphic recording, which is standing in front of a room and recording the conversation as it unfolds. And finally, visual facilitation, which is standing in front of a whiteboard, using post-its, using visuals, using different sorts of visual tools to enhance a conversation. So I am not going to run this exercise here, but this is an exercise from a book called Presto Sketching by Ben Crothers, a really good graphic recorder in Australia. And he runs an exercise where he gets participants to sketch out the tea making process. And you'll notice that the tea making process that you sketch, Manu, will be different to that of yours, Sarah's and Rohit's. You will all sketch something different, because even though we have a common subject, everyone's got a different experience and a different way of making tea and a different way of expressing themselves. So this is actually the power of expressing yourself using visuals. You're able to take a different perspective and you're able to talk about it. So I would encourage you to run this exercise with a friend or a team and observe the different types of tea making processes there are. So just a bit of fun. Now, when someone is sketching that tea making process, there's something going on in the brain. There's something that is taken from pedagogy or the education world. It's called Bloom's taxonomy, where you're creating something, and in that process, you're actually thinking about it and analyzing it. So you're creating, you're evaluating, you're applying your knowledge and your newly learned skills to reinforce the understanding, and in that process, it helps you to remember the content better. So the other way to think about it is that you've got these 3 loops in the brain. You're trying to understand the task or the content at hand. You're synthesizing it. You're forming new connections in the brain. And then you're translating what you've learned and what you've thought about and putting that on paper or expressing that in a visual form. Now, before we go into the practical part of the day, I just want to reiterate what visual thinking is about, okay? It's about expressing your ideas using very simple symbols and lines and shapes and colors, and it's not about being artistic. Now, in fact, if you actually pay too much attention to the artistic part of note-taking, it actually detracts from the content itself, right? So now my daughter's favorite animal is a duck. And I've got 2 variations of a duck there. The first one I can draw in literally 2 seconds. And the last one is not a picture that I drew because I'm not an artistic person. Now, they both convey the same thing. Now, looking at those 2 different pictures, you can certainly tell that they are both ducks. So just to reiterate that I'm not an artist, this was one of my first sketches, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, where so how I started doing visual thinking was I went to a conference and I saw one of the speakers doing this, where they were talking and sketching out their thoughts at the same time. So I went back to work and I actually sketched out a workshop as people were discussing and putting up different points and talking about different things. So it didn't look very pretty at the time, and I have improved a lot since, but I'm not an artist, okay? So you do not have to be an artist to be a visual thinker. So these were some of the post-its that I actually converted during that live workshop, and I converted it to a sketch note. So lastly, just to reiterate, it's about being able to listen to the content and exercise what we call your mental cache, synthesize it, and then visualize it. So I'm going to skip forward a few slides. Now, this is actually the first maybe 45 minutes of a full day course that we run. So if you're interested, I invite you to come along. We were planning on running a physical course in October. I'm not sure if that's possible, but if not, we will be running a virtual version of this. So I think everyone's looking forward to getting started with some visual thinking. So we are going to get your pen and paper ready. Everyone got their pen and paper ready, and I'm going to teach us how to sketch. Quite interestingly, what I've got on screen here is what we call a word picture. So I've actually been a bit clever about the letter O, and I've turned it into a symbol of someone being quite confused and asking a question. Okay, so I've got a word picture there, and I've got some lettering as well. So yeah, notice that the letters SKETCH, they are in a bigger font, which is actually a form of emphasizing that part of the word, that part of the phrase. So we are going to learn how to sketch. So the first thing that we need to know is what we call the visual alphabet. Now, everything in the world that we see is made up of the visual alphabet. It can actually be broken down in dot, a line, an angle, an arc, a spiral, and a loop. So I'm going to invite you to take a minute, and I will be sending out these slides. I will be posting it on our LinkedIn. So please do give our LinkedIn profile a like, so you'll be getting a copy of the recording and the slides. But I'll give you a minute to copy what we call forms, which are open symbols. And secondly, invite you to copy out what we call fields, which are closed symbols. So ovals being encased, an eye, a triangle, fully encased symbols. If you like to learn more about the visual alphabet, you can Google the creator of this visual alphabet, and their name is Dave Gray. So while you're doing that, I'll draw your attention to the face that I've drawn on that picture. You'll notice that the face is made up of parts of the visual alphabet. So you've got angles making up the hair, you've got points making up the eyes, the nose is simply an arc, the face itself is an oval, and we've got a line for the mouth. Manu, if you have to leave now, that's okay. Take care, and it's great to meet you. We'll be sending out the slides, no worries at all. Now, I'm going to teach us to draw some people, okay? So I'm going to whip up my little sketch pad, and feel free to start copying these. So I use an app, and there is a phone version of this. It's called Sketchbook, and it's free. And so if you haven't seen me talking about this at the start, if you missed the start, I'm using my little Wacom device, and you can get one of these on TradeMe for less than $100 secondhand. And they're really, really nice to use. This one here is a Bluetooth device, so there's no wires, and it's quite convenient. When I'm using Sketch, I tend to use this pen over here, which is pressure sensitive. When you become a little bit more advanced with your drawing skills, you learn about things like high pressure and low pressure, and that actually gives you different shapes. So this, for example, is a high pressure, and then this, for example, is low pressure, and I can vary the pressure. Okay, so we're going to have a crack at drawing some pictures of people. Very easy. The simplest form is just a circle and then a stick figure there. Okay, that's a person. The second person that I invite you to draw along with me is an eye person, which is a circle and a box below it. And then if you want to express gender, perhaps a triangle, or these days I've seen gender neutral references, triangle and a square. And of course, the last one that we have there, one that I use quite a lot because it's literally two strokes, is a circle and like a inverted U. Now, you can actually give the faces some direction. So if someone's looking left or right or up or down, simply by just putting a nose. Yeah, so you can give these faces some direction. So looking up, looking down, and it just makes your people a little bit more interesting. Now, what happens if you want to draw a group of people? So a group of people is simply taking one of these forms and just putting a few of them together. Okay. If you want an even larger group of people, and you can use some perspective here, draw two smaller circles here, and then draw an even smaller circle here, and then we have a group of people. So everyone with me so far? Thumbs up? Yeah. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to learn to draw is more people, but also giving your faces some expressions. Okay. So there are actually three parts to a face, right? There is your eyebrows over here, and then you've got your eyes, and then you've got the mouth or your nose. There's three parts of the face that you can actually vary. And there is something called the expression matrix, which is further along in the course that I find really useful. Basically, what you do is you draw a grid. So this is a 4x4 grid, and you draw three variations of eyebrows on the top. So ranging from a horizontal line to an upside down U to a downside up U. And then replicating those along the vertical axis and turning those into mouths. Okay, so then you do a mix and match. So this first icon here, I've actually taken the eyebrow, the horizontal line, and I've also made the mouth a horizontal line. So that's almost like a very neutral kind of expression. All right, and then if you wanted to make that person a little bit happier, perhaps you could go with a smiley face at the bottom and an upside down U for the eyebrow. Okay, so this is what we call the expression matrix. And you can Google Austin Kleon, and he talks about how do you create expressions on faces. So going back to the next progression in our course, we are going to learn to draw some hands to give these characters some actions. Okay, so hands are very simple to draw. You can just use a line. And then I like to draw little ovals to represent closed fists. So that's actually someone pointing at something there. You've got someone with their hands along the side of their waist, perhaps like, being a little bit angry there. And then you might have someone that's celebrating. So, putting your hands into the sky, I'm celebrating. But hands are really, really easy to draw. Now, the next thing that I was going to teach was drawing some very easy containers. Okay, so I am going to blank out my screen so I can show you how to draw some really easy containers. Okay, now the easiest container that I always come back to is a post-it. So a post-it is a rectangle, a little triangle in the corner. Okay, one more time, a rectangle and a little triangle in the corner. The other container that I use really often is a speech bubble. Okay, so quite simply, and these can come in different shapes. Like you could have oval speech bubbles, you could have square speech bubbles, you could have speech bubbles with curved tails or speech bubbles with pointy tails. They can come in the form of thought bubbles, which are clouds. Draw some circles there. And one interesting tip that I like to share with people is that the nature of the container actually reflects the content. So you can, and what I mean by that is you can actually have dotted lines as opposed to straight lines. So a dotted speech bubble gives the content the notion that this is not something we completely agree on. There's a lot of question marks in here, right? Question marks, okay? You could also have a starburst, which is a very dynamic form of a speech bubble. And a starburst, so the nature of the shape and the type of the line can actually convey the content, express the content in different ways. So I like to use starburst to represent actions, all right? Actions. So those are different types of very easy containers. I have some other containers here, which I've taken from the Visual Facilitation Cookbook. So this is a free PDF and a resource for people working in the youth social services space. They use visual facilitation to facilitate a conversation with youth. So that's an example of how visual thinking is a universal form of communication. So maybe just give you a minute or two to have a look at some of these containers. Now, I find that there are many different variations of containers. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 and draw them really well. Now, the next exercise that I'm going to invite us to do is to grab a piece of paper and we're going to practice drawing our people. And I'm going to invite you to draw a grid of 3 by 3 eye-shaped people. So with a circle for the head and a square or rectangle for the body. Okay, and when you're done with that, I'm going to invite you to draw along to this 4-minute video. I think it's a 4 or 5-minute video. I'll send out the slides if you wish to watch the video again. There is a YouTube link as well. Okay, so I hope everyone's ready. I'm going to press play.
A really easy way to start sketchnoting is to add little people to your notes. They can add a lot of visual interest and convey a lot of information in a very easy way. We don't have to spend a lot of time doing the people. In fact, if you're at a lecture or in a meeting, it's very hard to spend a lot of time and add a lot of detail. So here's a quick way of adding people to your notes. I've drawn 9 boxes and 9 circles on top of those boxes, and now by drawing little lines with loops off the corners of my boxes, I've got a little person, and he's really fast to draw and he can pack a lot of personality into his small frame. For instance, if you vary the angles of the arms, you can give him different postures. Give him some legs to stand on, and all of a sudden he's got one hand on one hip and one hand in the air. What about if we put both arms up in the air? Hooray! Our little guy is pleased to be here, or maybe he's signalling for help. What if we have one arm down and one arm up? Again, just 2 straight legs. This little guy, he's having a bad day. He's got his head in his hands just by bending both of those arms off the top of the box. What if we want to show movement? Again, bend those arms, one up, one down. You know what it looks like to run. You've got one foot on the ground and the other one up in the air. And all of a sudden you've got a running man. After all that running, we might be exhausted and want to just sit around and not do much. So splay those legs right out from the corner of those boxes and you're sitting down. It's interesting to look at how we position weight in our body and then reflect that in our little stick boxes. Our little box men, sorry. What about just 2 hands on hips, standing there like we know it all? But of course, a really great way to add expression is with some features on the face. So a couple of eyes and a nose. It's really all it takes. You don't even have to put a mouth in, though that really does help a lot of the time. A good reason to use a nose, even just a line for a nose, is that we can then orient the face. So we can have our little men looking to the left or the right, give them a bit more variety. That's just by shifting the line of the nose across the circle of the face. Let's make sure this runner knows which way he's going and watching what he's doing. We can look up by putting the eyes really high on the circle. And we can glance to one direction or the other. And by varying the mouth expression, we get all sorts of different facial effects. Once we've got our little people, we can give them a reason for living. This guy's pretty chuffed with himself with his hands on his hips because his profits are going up, up, up. Really easy, just zigzags and squares. And now we've portrayed a whole story with just a stick man and a prop. This guy is pretty unhappy because he dropped his Coke on the ground and it's just spilled everywhere. What's he going to do? But his neighbour is a little happier. Circles and triangles, and all of a sudden he's got himself a balloon. No wonder he's happy. Wonder what's going on though. Where did he get his balloon from? Remember this dude with his hands up in the air? How happy was he to see you? So happy he made a banner. Banners are pretty easy to add and pretty effective. Don't take much time at all. Not quite sure why this dude's doing. If he's pointing, that's a funny point. Maybe he's laughing at the poor guy who dropped his Coke. Add some dashes and our runner's moving pretty fast to deliver his baton or diploma or message or whatever he's delivering here. Give this little guy something to read. Maybe he's got his newspaper on the ground. Just spending a bit of time chilling out, reading his reports or his annual report or whatever it is he's reading. Boxes are great. Our mind does all the tricks. We can just put a few boxes together and hey presto, we've got ourselves a dog or a lamb or something here who does not want to go the direction this human wants to go. Practice, you little people. They're lots of fun.
Great. I hope you enjoyed that little exercise here. It's so simple. Just a circle and a box, some hands, and you can create meaning with these very, very simple lines. Now, how's everyone going? Has anyone got any questions so far? I've been talking for the past half an hour or so. Looks like we're pretty good, ready to truck on with a little bit more. Yep, I think so. I'm just going to skip ahead to some of the other parts of the course. We've talked about the different characters of shapes. So using a dotted line could represent some uncertainty with that content. If you have curved lines, like in the form of clouds, then it's an indication that the content is unformed. It could be a question that the group is thinking about, or a conclusion that has not yet been reached. And then we have a circle that could represent some flexibility in the discussion, right? So we might have agreed on some things, but we might be flexible with it. Okay. And then we could have very boxy shapes, so squares and rectangles. So these represent certainty. These are what we call static shapes. And lastly, we've got the very dynamic shapes, so starbursts. So I've got a couple of examples here where we've got a group of people asking the question, where do we go from here? And I've encapsulated that in an unformed shape, a cloud, because it's the question. Versus the sketch on the right that says we are in agreement. So that actually takes the form of a static shape. So you can actually use these different characters of shapes to help convey your content a little bit better. The next thing that I wanted to introduce was connectors. Okay, so these are some connectors that are really easy to draw. I'm going to invite you to take a minute to just practice drawing some of these connectors. So you've got arrows, dotted arrows, nodes, lines between nodes. You've got a boxed arrow, and you've got like a bow and arrow type of arrow. Okay. Now there is one type of arrow that is actually really easy to draw and it is quite impactful, but people don't know how to do it. So I'm going to invite you to draw along with me, and at the end of this 1 minute, you are going to learn to draw the perfect arrow. Okay. So the first thing we do is we draw a couple of horizontal lines. And at the end of that line, you draw 2 verticals. Then in between, equidistant between those 2 horizontal lines and a little bit on the way out towards the right, you draw the apex of the arrow by putting a dot there and simply connecting the arrow to that dot and then joining it up. Okay, so then now you have the perfect arrow. Now I've got different types of connectors here that you can draw along. Just Google the Visual Facilitation Cookbook. It's a free resource. It's a resource that is used in the area of social work. So different types of arrows there. And just to help us jazz up our drawings a little bit, because we do have some time, I want to go into the topic of shadows. Okay, so the way that we add a bit of interest to our sketches is by adding a shadow. So the way you add a shadow is think about where your light source is and be consistent with where that light source is. So if the sun was on the top left, then your shadows will always be cast on the bottom right part of the image. Okay, so here I have the container of a Post-it, and because the sun is on the top left, I simply take a different color, and you can use different types of pens. I like to use these brush pens, which are very inexpensive. You can get these from Trade Me or AliExpress, really cheap, less than $1. They're really great for shadows. Okay, so then the shadow will be cast on the bottom right. Okay, if you had a speech bubble over here, similarly, if the light source is on the top left, then you are going to cast a shadow on the bottom right. Okay, now let's go back to our drawing with the people, and we'll add some shadows there. Okay, so let's say we had that person there. And now let's say that we had our light source on the top. So to draw a light bulb, this is called the UZMO light bulb. The U, Z, and the filament looks like an M, and an O there. That's a UZMO light bulb. UZMO. Okay. So if the light bulb is on the top left, then the shadow, and I'm going to pick a different color here. The shadow will be on the right, bottom right. Yeah. See how easy that is? All right. So now with this arrow here, if the light bulb was on the top left, then the shadow will be on the right sides. Yeah. And the bottom. Okay. Very simple. Okay. Now we could even do this with a light bulb. The shadow is going to be on the right side. Yeah. Very simple. All right, so you can practice this with all your shapes, all your containers, all your people, and it adds a whole level of interest to your drawings. Now, how's everyone going so far? Yeah, good. So if you need more resources, there are a few places that I like to go to. So I'm just going to bring up my web browser here. The first one that I really like to use is called the nounproject.com. So this is a free repository of icons. And it's really nice that it comes in black and white, because it takes away all the artisticness and it draws your attention to the shapes and the lines. So because this is about mental health today, we are raising funds for mental health. You could pick an icon like meditation, for example, and they'll show you some very, very simple icons that you can use. And this is all 100% free. You can pay for, I think, $2 subscription if you want to use some of these images commercially. Let's say we picked the word wellness. It's going to give us some icons that we can use to represent wellness. Now, the next website that I refer to quite a lot and I do a lot of learning from is this Facebook group here called Graphic Facilitation. It's a free group on Facebook and it's got about 15,000 members. So they have got a lot of resources in here. Examples of graphic recordings from all around the world. Lots of really interesting discussions and content, courses you can go to, videos, very, very inspiring to see this on Facebook. The other really good resource is Google Images. Just typed a keyword, just click on Google Images. It's really good. And here's a tip here with Google Images. I like to use icons, right? So you just postfix the word icon and you get these icons, right? So when we are doing visual facilitation and visual thinking, we are more interested in the shapes and the simplicity of the visuals than the artistic part of the visuals. So Googling for icons is really great. And of course, Pinterest is really good too. And it's worth mentioning the sketchnotearmy.com, and a shout out to Mike Rohde, who got me started with sketchnoting. Mike Rohde is the author of the Sketchnote Handbook, and he's curated this website, which has got lots of different articles and podcasts. I actually feature in one of these podcasts, so I hope you go along and listen to some of these podcasts from sketchnoters and visual thinkers around the world. And lastly, definitely the Teamworx website. We've got lots of really great resources. If you go to teamworx.co.nz and you click on the visual facilitation link on the top there, it will take you to some videos. I have a 40-minute equivalent of this course that I ran at a conference a couple of years ago. You can watch that video. It's got examples of me doing graphic recording for a utilities company at one of their offsites. And it's got some of these definitions around what sketchnoting is, graphic recording is, and what visual facilitation is. Now, we have about 5 minutes left in the course. And the one thing that I wanted to leave you, and it is an exercise, because we are raising funds for mental health. I'm going to invite you to sketch one of these. So this is your mental health or your wellness sheet. And for me, wellness is about being grateful for the things in my life and planning something that I can look forward to every day, doing 30 minutes of exercise and 3 minutes of deep breathing. So very simple. I've got an icon of myself looking really happy here. You can actually use different types of fonts to give your lettering a bit more interest. And then I've got these categories. So this is something to look forward to during the day. And I've put a container here. I have yet to add any shadows, but this container allows me to actually fill in this part of the sketch note during the day. And I would actually laminate this. I've got 30 minutes of exercise in a checkbox here. For when I've done the exercise, I can give it a tick. 3 minutes of slow breathing. When I've done that, I give it a tick. An act of kindness, encouraging us to do an act of kindness every day. Give it a little tick. And I've got 3 boxes here for 3 things that I am grateful for. I have boxed this up with a very simple outline, a different color, just to give it some interest and a bit of pop. And because I like to share my sketch notes, I always leave my contact details there. And that's me, #TheVisualCoach. So with that, I'm going to finish off by inviting you to follow us on LinkedIn. We will be posting the slides on the Teamworx LinkedIn page. Give us a like. Go and look at the resources on our website. And the piece of homework that I want to give you is to visually express in a LinkedIn post something that's given you joy in the past week, right? So you could do a sketch, you could do one of these wellness sheets, and I would like you to post a shout out on LinkedIn with some of the sketches that you've created today. That will help us to share the love with visual thinking and hopefully get everyone we work with and everyone we encounter to become a visual thinker to help create some better conversations. So with that, we have about 2 minutes. I am going to stick around for 2 minutes of questions, but for everyone else, I wish you well, and I hope you are able to survive the rest of your lockdown, looking after yourselves, do a bit of visual thinking, and have a bit of fun. All right, so with that, I'm going to be signing off, but I'll stay on for a couple of minutes. Thanks for joining me this morning. It's been wonderful sharing my craft with you guys.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Z. It's very cool and quite fun.
Thanks, VJ. See you around.
I realized I can actually draw okay with a little bit of help. So yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you, Z. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rohit. Thanks, Sarah. All right, take care, guys. See you later.